Phantom Blade Zero isn't trying to be another Souls-like game. It's trying to create its own identity. The developers call it Kung Fu Punk. But what exactly does that mean? Is it just a cool marketing term, or does it actually shape the combat, the world, and even the level design? That's exactly what we're going to break down in this video. Before we jump into the gameplay, let's quickly go over the story, because I think it has a really strong opening. You play as Sol, one of the most skilled assassins in an organization called the Order. One day, he's accused of murdering the leader of his own organization. From that moment, every assassin in the Order is hunting him down. While trying to escape, Sol is badly wounded, but a mysterious healer manages to save his life. There's just one catch. He tells Sol that he only has 66 days left. Now Sol has to stay one step ahead of the assassins chasing him, while also finding out who framed him and uncovering the truth behind everything that's happened. You might be wondering, what actually makes this game different from every other action RPG out there? Well, the answer is something the developers call Kung Fu Punk. The first time I heard that term, I honestly had no idea what it meant either. It's not just traditional Kung Fu, and it's definitely not your typical steampunk or fantasy setting. Instead, Kung Fu Punk is a mix of classic Chinese martial arts, strange technology, deadly mechanical weapons, and a dark world that plays by its own rules. So, don't expect a historically accurate martial arts game. This world is filled with bizarre inventions, deadly machines, and enemies that feel like they're inspired by both ancient Chinese legends and dark fantasy at the same time. And honestly, the best way to understand Kung Fu Punk isn't by explaining it, it's by looking at the world itself. The first thing that stands out is how dark and heavy everything feels. Almost every location is covered in muted colors and shades of gray, creating an atmosphere that constantly feels mysterious and unsettling. And that feeling doesn't stop with the environments. You can see the same philosophy in the enemy design too. Some enemies look completely human at first, but when you take a closer look, you realize they're missing faces or have strange, unnatural features. Others look more like beasts than people. It's almost like everything seems normal from a distance, but the closer you look, the more you realize something about this world just isn't right. The same philosophy carries over to the weapons as well. The game offers a wide variety of fighting styles, and you can even chain different weapons together during combat. That variety doesn't just make the combat feel fresh, it also reinforces the game's unique identity. But having a dark and mysterious world doesn't automatically make a game good. For most gamers, combat is what really matters. Because no matter how beautiful a game looks, if the combat isn't fun, you're probably going to get bored after a few hours. Luckily, from everything we've seen, Phantom Blade Zero doesn't seem to have that problem. The first thing that caught my attention was how incredibly fast the combat looks. Honestly, I fell in love with the speed of the movement and how smoothly you can switch between weapons. But what impressed me even more is that the combat doesn't look fast just for the sake of being fast. It feels like the entire system is built around stylish combos. From what I can tell, the game is designed to make cinematic combos feel accessible. Even with a few simple button inputs, you can already pull off some really cool-looking attacks. But at the same time, it also seems to leave plenty of room for mastery. The more time you spend learning the combat system, the more advanced, creative, and satisfying your combos become. So it looks like there's something here for both casual players and people who love mastering combat mechanics. But just because the combat is fast and combo-friendly doesn't mean you'll be able to button mash your way through every fight. It doesn't look like that at all. Timing still seems to play a huge role. You'll need to know when to deflect, when to parry, and when to dodge. And honestly, I think that's what makes the combat so exciting. The game constantly encourages you to stay aggressive, but at the same time, it demands that you pay attention to defense and react at exactly the right moment. Another thing I really like is the weapon system. You can carry two main weapons and freely switch between them during combat. You also have two secondary weapons that can be seamlessly chained into your combos. That gives you a lot more freedom to experiment and create your own fighting style instead of being locked into a single moveset. And maybe my favorite part is how balanced the combat seems to be. At least based on everything we've seen, Phantom Blade Zero doesn't look like a brutally punishing Souls-like where every mistake costs you your life. But it also doesn't look like one of those games where you can just spam buttons and win every fight. Instead, it feels like the developers are aiming for a balance between flashy cinematic action, fast-paced combat, and genuine challenge. If the final game can deliver on that balance, I think the combat could easily become one of Phantom Blade Zero's biggest strengths. So far, Phantom Blade Zero looks incredibly promising. Only the final release will show whether it can truly live up to the hype. Until then, we'll be watching every new reveal. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.